Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Scott Simmons, and for the next 10 to 15 minutes, I want to give you an overview of Recycling Simplified. So Recycling Simplified is Sustainable Winds of Colorado's awareness program designed to educate and inform residents on how to recycle. Given the low rate of recycling in Colorado, what we're trying to do is to increase recycling. This program consists of some quick read educational content, which you're going to be hearing verbally from me, and then an optional quiz at the end of the material. Given you provide an email address, get 80% correct on the online quiz, you'll be entered in the drawing. This program starts on April 20th and will go ahead and conclude on May 30th. And with that, let me go ahead and give you a little bit more information about why we did this. We really feel that there's an important need to help our residents kind of understand how to recycle better. Once again, quick educational content. We're not trying to make this rocket science. And also, this optional quiz at the end of the material. And if you get 80% right on the quiz, you're going to be entered into a drawing for some cool swag. The drawing will be on May 30th. And once again, we're providing this training in multiple ways. You can either do it directly on the web at the Sustainable Windsor, Colorado website. You can watch the video as you're doing now. And I would also indicate to you that you can download the presentation as well. There are a lot of notes on these slides if you want the presentation. And then additionally, we have a PDF version of this material as well. So any and all pieces of material, and they're all essentially the same. Overall, as we begin to kind of look at, where things are at, it's important to go ahead and just sort of start with an overview of recycling and then discuss some of the challenges that we need to address to be more sustainable. The fact is, it's really easy if you just follow a few steps. And we can understand, I think all of us, why recycling is important. It saves the land. No more landfills, or at least helping to minimize the amount of landfills that we have going on. Saves energy. It means we don't have to build new stuff all the time. We can reuse it. It saves you money. It reduces the need for landfills, provides recyclable materials that can then be reused in manufacturing or can be reused in other places and situations. And then lastly, it saves the environment. It reduces our pollution. So guys, it's a good thing to do. And, with that, we can kind of take a look at where recycling is in the United States. I recognize this graphic's a little bit tough to read, but, hopefully you all can see Colorado there at a wonderful 16%. Some states do extremely well in this area. You can actually go to the document that's linked on here and, go ahead and see how things go across the United States. And I mean, as you would expect, obviously, New York, New England is way up there. But there's a lot of states, Iowa, for example, which you wouldn't consider to be maybe a progressive state. 44%, Minnesota, Michigan, 48%. So this is all good news. The report then stipulates that not all recycling is created equal. We should reprioritize the recycling materials that have the greatest potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and the highest value for creating new products. Collection and recycling are often not synonymous. The quantity of material collected for recycling is often far greater than what's actually processed and recycled. But other recycling policies such as deposit return systems and bottle bills, these all help as well. So as a country, bottom line, we have a lot of work to do, but the US is actually getting much better. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Colorado. Colorado, we have a huge gap. Our recycling and composting rate's about 16%, half the national average. It's clear that we need to do more. If you ask your neighbor, they'll say undoubtedly, yes, of course I recycle. But the key issue is we don't do a very good job of recycling. And you can read more about this in this one article that I've outlined here on the slide. Even though it's a couple of years old, it still reflects the context of where we're at with recycling. EcoCycle is an amazing non-governmental organization in Boulder. They have a mission to innovate, implement, and advocate for local and global zero waste solutions to foster a more regenerative, equitable, and climate resilient future. Their vision is throughout the nation and the world, our take, make, waste society needs to be replaced with a circular economy. They believe they're active in recycling initiatives, both at a state and local level. They're currently working with Sustainable Windsor on multiple initiatives, including working with our Recycle Colorado team, front range waste diversion, et cetera. And as well, they provide an annual review of recycling and composting efforts within Colorado. And this guide is another one that I would urge you to take a look at. And I'm not going to read what we've got here on the slide. I'll let you read that on your own, except to focus maybe on that last line. The state of Colorado has a lot of work to do when it comes to reducing, reusing, recycling, and composting our waste system. This quote was taken directly from this document. I urge you to read this, and once again, it does come out annually. So this is the report that was done at the conclusion of last year. So before we talk solutions, let's talk a little bit about what happens with waste. And by and large, most communities, especially those here, for example, in Windsor, most of you are on single stream recycling. What single stream recycling means is that you basically go ahead and you put all your recycling in one bucket and you put all your garbage in another bucket. Step one, your waste trash hauler comes weekly. You've probably got two buckets, a recycle and a trash. All the waste is going to initially go to a transfer station where it's going to be sorted, and that, the solid waste is going to go to a landfill, and then the recyclables are going to potentially move either to a transfer station or they may move directly to what's known as a material recovery facility. And the material recovery facility is what actually sorts the individual recyclable elements that are in your trash. So they'll sort the plastics from the paper, from the cardboard, et cetera. If you're more interested in how this life cycle works kind of under the covers, how the sausage gets made, please go ahead and check out the one link that we have here. And if you want to see what happens in a MRF, that's what we call the material recovery facility, check out the other link. Once again, the real issue here is, we continue to require more and more landfill. Actually, as many of you know, the Larimer landfill is actually closing. There's going to be a new landfill put up, up towards Wellington, up in the north portion of our region. We can't keep doing landfills. In addition to the fact it's a waste of land, it also creates a lot of pollution in and of itself, as methane and other noxious gases basically arise from the landfill environment. So bottom line is, you need to understand the flow of waste. And what actually occurs is we need to be preventing contamination of the garbage and the recyclable elements in that step 5. And so we need to start at the beginning of this to make sure that we're putting the right material into our recycling bin. So the key challenges are, as I've kind of alluded to, many items that should be recycled end up in landfill, and that's not good, because they should be recycled. And then as well, people put the wrong items in the recyclables, and when they hit the MRF, they can potentially contaminate other materials. We'll talk about this in a little bit more depth on the next slide with recycling myths. And just to give you an idea, by and large, the MRFs are pretty smart. But if you're basically putting in a liter of Coke into your recycled bucket, or a half used thing of peanut butter, it becomes increasingly likely that you may in fact contaminate other recyclable elements. So recycling myths. It's important to also consider that some of these things just don't happen. Recyclables. It's important to put things into the recycle bin. If they do, they will go to recycling. Whether they get sorted out in the MRF or not becomes another issue. But recyclables, don't end up in the landfill. If you put one contaminant in the recycling, the whole load is going to go to the landfill. No, that's not correct. In single stream recycling, certainly, things are, mixed together and whatnot. But, overall, the MRF does its best to try to pick out contaminants. It slows down the processing, costs both time and money. But once again, you can kind of get away with it. Landfills do not sort through the garbage. Once items end up at the landfill, they're treated as trash. They're going to live in that landfill from that point on until maybe somebody comes out and does dumpster diving. Recycling uses more energy. Well, recycling aluminum cans saves 95% of the energy needed to make new cans. Steel, 60 to 74% of the energy. If you recycle paper, 60% of the energy. Recycling plastic saves about 1/3, and this is part of the reason we need to stay away from plastic. Glass is okay, but both of those require a lot of money and resources to recycle. You know, since 1970, the US has recycled and composted over 2.29 billion tons of materials. 4.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent, reducing our carbon emissions by more than 5.5 billion tons, the equivalent of taking over 1 billion cars off the road. So we begin to look at, throwing everything in one bucket and they'll sort it for you. No, they're not going to sort it for you. The fact is, the recyclables are going to be mixed together. The MRF will separate the aluminum, the cardboard, the plastics, etc. But they're not here to sort through your garbage. If an item has a recycling symbol on it, it means it's recyclable. Well, not always, because recycling guidelines change from place to place. Infrastructure, recycling markets are different. As a result, products can't be universally labeled. Organics, food waste, yard clippings, paper products, compostable compost. If oxygen is present, the landfills are designed to be airtight, but the result is going to be methane emissions. So this is part of the reason we also need to be looking at things like, composting. But that said, the key thing is let's do a better job of recycling. Recycling is everybody's problem, opportunity, whatever. It's not a red versus blue issue. It's not right versus left. It's not progressive versus conservative. Pretty much everyone believes in the value of recycling. It's just a matter of doing it the right way. So let's start about the waste management hierarchy, because even though we're talking in the session about recycling, it's important to understand that that shouldn't be the last step for you. You really should be going through what we refer to as this waste management hierarchy. First, as you're beginning to buy something, you should begin to take a look at it. Do you really need it? The new smartphone comes out. Do you really need that new smartphone? Does yours actually work okay? Reduce. Should you buy it in a different form because it's more sustainable? This is a tough one, I'm sure, for people to deal with, and most people don't. But if you can kind of put your hands around what are better materials, staying away from synthetics, moving to natural, moving to hemp, moving to cotton, etc. Reuse. Okay, now we've gotten to the point where we are going to discard something. Do we want to put it in the recycle bin or give it to, I don't know, Goodwill, the Vietnam vets? I don't care. There's plenty of folks out there that'll take it. If nothing else, go out to Nextdoor, post free items to your neighborhood. And then finally, you're going to get to the point of, gee, okay, I probably should recycle this. Is it recyclable? So if you go through this process, you're going to find even the amount that you need to recycle is going to go down, because you're not going to be going ahead and either buying things you don't need or buying products that may not be sustainable, or worse yet, trying to recycle something that somebody else could probably use and get benefit from. So bottom line, it's not tough to do this, guys. Ensure your containers are clean and empty. Pour your Coke out of your liter bottle. You can leave labels and lids on jars and bottles. And in fact, that's really what's recommended. But empty them first. You can leave tape and staples on paper products. You can leave mail in envelopes. Just don't be going ahead and providing like shreds of material. Focus on, where you can make a difference. And also don't dispose of hazardous waste in the recycle or the waste. There are facilities in both Larimer as well as Weld County and other counties across the state where you can go ahead and deposit those items. And lastly, go back to that last slide, focus on reducing and reusing before you get to the point of recycling. There are a number of other URLs, websites you can go ahead and visit that I've got in the notes. And as well, I'd urge you to take a look at this EcoCycle guide, another one of the great resources provided to us from EcoCycle. But we've provided what we think is a good piece of information for you. This particular diagram, picture's worth 1,000 words. This gives you the basics, recycling cans, cartons, glass, paper, plastic. And then the things you need to stay away from. Don't put your recyclables in a bag. Just put them directly in the bin. No plastic bags or plastic wraps, single-use plastic. No, 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 no. Now, there are ways that you can go ahead and recycle this. For example, Safeway will go ahead and accept those, but don't put it in your recycle area. It's not going to contaminate things, but it's going to slow up and gum up the process. No flammables, no hazardous items. These are drop-off at hazardous site items. No yard waste. Most communities provide, both in the spring and in the fall, usually provide a place where you can take yard waste. No food or liquid. Try to empty all your containers. If you got a little bit of, food residue in there, don't worry about that. But, half jars of peanut butter, try to stay away from it. 3/4, filled bottles of Coca-Cola, please try to stay away from it. So hopefully this gives you some easy guidelines. I'd actually recommend take a picture of this or go out to the website where we've got this particular document. Put this on your refrigerator. Just go ahead and copy this stuff. If you need a copy, please reach out to somebody, either myself or somebody in Sustainable Windsor, and we'll get you a copy. So what is and isn't recyclable? Well, if you look at what can be thrown into the recycle bucket, most of you guys, I think, understand this. Plastic bottles and containers. These are the big plastic bottles, not the single-use, single-use water bottles or, the to-go cups that you might get from Starbucks that have like a plastic, coating in them, bins, tubs, containers. All of these things can be recycled. What can't be recycled? Well, the list is pretty long, hazardous items, syringes, needles, to-go cups like Starbucks, fluorescent lights, batteries, mirrors, tarps. So there's a lot of things you can't recycle, but could very easily be reused. For hazardous items, once again, drop them off at your hazardous sites. Important to understand that all haulers are not the same. So be sure that they agree with these, these concepts that you see here on the slide agree with your hauler. By the most part, they probably will. We've done some quick checks. We've got 8 different haulers running around here in Windsor. We've pretty much substantiated that all of the haulers can go ahead and take these items. But once again, be careful, take a look at it and do the right thing. So with that, we're at a close. Are you smart about recycling? Do you know what those key best practices are that we just mentioned? There aren't really all that many of them. Are you ready to take a short quiz? It's an optional quiz. You get 80% right, supply me with your email. You'll be entered into a drawing for a Cool Climate Prize. The quiz can be found at this URL. If you download the presentation and actually look at it in presentation format, this little button off to the side actually will quick link you as well to the to the associated quiz. And so, next steps, put a copy of the Recycling Simplified graphic that I just showed you on your refrigerator. Review the websites that I'll show you actually on this following page. And as well, encourage your neighbors and families to be more effective recyclers. This really is not that difficult to put your hands around. I'm hoping that this helps everybody, as we begin to, move forward as a community. It is our hope that Windsor becomes a model for sustainability here in Northern Colorado. We have the capability. It's our opportunity to take advantage of. Go forth, recycle smart. Thank you so much for your time.